And we are live. Hello, welcome everybody to BNS Gaming episode 9, I believe.
I think so.
I think so. As you can tell, we are so professional, we know what number we're on.
Yeah, we're keeping track.
Because we are that good. But anyway, welcome to episode 9. I'm one of your hosts, Sam, the S.
I'm the other one, Bill, the B.
Together we are BS. I mean B and S. So, how's your week been, Bill?
Busy. It went by really fast. Well, I had off Monday, but it didn't feel like it since I just have a lot of tech to learn, new programming languages and platforms for this new job. So I just feel like I'm in front of a computer all the time, and any break I get is basically in front of another screen when I'm playing video games. So
Right.
It's been an okay week. How was yours?
Well, last week I spent 3 days in the hospital,
Right.
unfortunately. What's up, Brian? Looks like Brian's already in here. Nice. And he is also B, as he says. But then I ended up coughing up a bunch of blood over the course.
It was like 8 ounces.
8 fluid ounces over the course of 36 hours, which is a pretty decent amount.
Is 8 fluid ounces different from like 8 solid ounces?
Well, see, I don't know. We have fluid ounces and ounces for weights, so it's weird, But I was using one of these Wawa things to cough it up into, and I filled it up about halfway, and this is 16 fluid ounces.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. But it turns out I have bronchitis, which is part of the reason why my voice sounds like crap. And on my blood thinners, the coughing that the bronchitis was causing caused the capillaries to break in my lungs.
So not an awesome week.
No, not an awesome week. And then I was fine Friday when I left the hospital. I was fine Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I just felt like absolute dog shit. I was coughing more. Matter of fact, yesterday I was coughing up a little bit of blood again, but just, not much. But I have a feeling that's because I got a flu shot while I was in the hospital. So my body was sort of fighting off the flu shot for those 3 days.
Inoculating.
Yeah, which made me feel even worse than what I was. Because the past 2 days I felt fine. So that's been good.
And you had a really good day yesterday.
With with my
sweet
my
Pixel 2 XL.
My new phone, who dis?
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, I gotta get a cover for that thing though. I was never much of an advocate for covers until
you spend $1,000 on a fucking phone. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember for my bachelor party, and I had the Nexus 5, I think, and I just gotten it maybe. And I remember saying at the dinner that we had for my bachelor party, if you remember, I never had covers, and I was saying to somebody, I'm like, I never use a cover. I'm just, I'm extra careful all the time, which was true, except I think like that night, because we got really drunk, because bachelor party. I woke up the next morning and it was just the screen was completely shattered.
Oh.
It was just wrecked. So I was like, and I didn't get a cover still. I was like, well, okay, obviously it's an outlier, right? I'm at a bachelor party. I got really drunk. Okay, so I smashed my phone. That it'll be the only bachelor party I ever have. Well, anyway, I was running to work one time, or running across the street, and the phone slipped out of my inner jacket pocket and landed perfectly on the corner. And smash it again. It was still, I could use it, but it was had a crack up. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm getting covers.
Yeah, when I had my Nexus 6, I have a cover for it. It's actually over there. I had that body glove cover, if you remember.
Yeah.
And then I eventually got that battery one when my battery started to, not last as long. Now, granted, this is my first new phone in 3 years. So we all know how good batteries last after 3 years.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, dude. The battery on the Pixel 2 XL is crazy. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I actually left my charger at work, but I have I want to say 16 hours before I have to worry about this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna geek out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Hold this in front of the camera. This is the cloth, the actual Google officially blessed cloth cover. It's $40, which is expensive for a cover, I guess, but it is nice. I love the way it feels. I really love this thing.
Let me see that again. I had you on a smaller screen. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I have. Oh yeah. And it feels
like
nice
cloth
too.
Kevlar thing. So
Yeah.
it's not like cloth where like on the edges it gets frayed and starts to like, the cloth gets like whatever, hairy or frayed or whatever it is. It's it's pretty solid. Fortunately, I haven't had to find out how good it is as a protector because I haven't dropped it yet. Knock on wood.
Right.
Anyway, so game news.
Yes. More rumors, man. We are rumor central.
Yeah. Well, we're at that point where it's gonna the rumors are gonna ramp up as we get as we start to approach E3.
Yeah.
It's gonna be that's the game, right? It's gonna be, the rumors. Some are leaks and some are speculation. It's kind of hard to separate the two, and then E3 will come out and confirm what we either think we already know or what was in fact just, bullshit.
Right. So first rumor, Google may be getting into the console business.
Yeah, and so you linked in the show notes an article from Business Insider.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think because that has like a ad blocker thing. Like, oh, turn off your ad blocker, and I'm like, fuck you. I'm not turning off my ad blocker for you guys.
Yeah, I read it, and I'm at a point now with technology, and I feel this way about Microsoft's HoloLens. There's a lot of times where we'll hear stuff, and we hear about it, we'll see stuff like Microsoft is selling the HoloLens. So at least there is a product that is commercially available, although it's not considered.
It's more like business right now, right?
It's business, it's developer, because they have the $5,000 version, which is for like, I don't know, enterprise, I guess for companies who want to use it for something, whatever. And then there's the dev version, which is $3,000, so you can start developing on it, which I think is a little steep and kind of shitty. But I guess if you're a professional company and you're building stuff, that's just the cost of doing business. But my point is, we hear about technology a lot, and then it goes nowhere, a la Google Glass.
Yeah.
Or the original Microsoft Surface, if you remember, which was a table that could do all kinds of cool stuff, and it was real, and you can go to Las Vegas because they had one there.
At the CES, I believe they had one, yeah.
Yeah, right? But it never goes anywhere. We hear about it for years and years and years, and nothing ever comes of it. And I sort of got that impression from this. Yeah, so the rumor is that Google's talking to this company, and I forgot the name, Yeti.
Yeah, that's the code name.
Yeti is the code name. There's a company, I forget, I'm going to look up again, that they were in talks to.
Well, apparently Phil Harrison is involved.
What's that?
Phil Harrison's involved.
Yeah, big names get involved, and then when they realize that it's not going anywhere, they drop out.
Yeah, but I think he works for Google now.
Yeah, he does. No, I know. It's just, that doesn't...
I'm just saying, he was one of the originators of the Xbox, and then he moved over to Sony and was with Sony for 15 years.
Yeah.
So he's got that pedigree behind him.
He's got it, and it's, certainly... so cynicism aside, let's assume that they're building a streaming service. That makes sense, because there's also the rumors that Microsoft is building a streaming service, a streaming gaming service, meaning you don't have to own games and you don't have to download the games. You actually stream the games real time from a server, and these cloud servers are processing this stuff, and then you can play the same exact game I think with fidelity that is in parity with console, computer, or mobile device. Right? That's what the concept is. And certainly we remember the Phantom console, which was sort of, the fascinating, spectacular crash and burn, but that was the original concept, right? And then what was the other one? The other streaming service?
What was it? There was one, but people just said it wasn't very good because of the latency.
Right. Do you remember the name of it?
Not off the top of my head, but I do remember it. It was coming out around 2010, 2011.
Yeah, no, it was available. You could subscribe to it. I think I subscribed to it and tried it and just wasn't very impressed. So anyway, Microsoft is also rumored to be getting into that because they're looking for ways, obviously, to make more money to go to places where they think, people will want this technology. So it makes sense. If Microsoft's thinking about it, and that's if they are,
right.
Google will be thinking about it too, because they both own these very powerful cloud platforms, because that's the crux of it, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't work unless you have a really good cloud platform.
Right.
Graphics rendering and processing, and then push out
Right.
some sort of
So
compressed
it's
version
like
of that.
out of everybody, you'd have Microsoft, Google, and Amazon would be the three that could do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they would. And Amazon, of course, has the leader in cloud computing services. So, and Amazon owns Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
So, although I haven't heard anything about Amazon going in that direction.
No, there's a bigger rumor that Amazon is planning on expanding Twitch into more of like a YouTube-like service as well, where people can upload videos and not just stream.
Interesting.
But that's still a rumor.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's rumor palooza today. I mean, so they've got Amazon has the money, and they've got the marketing, and they've pretty much got all of the facilities, and the means and the ways. Do you think that they could? Do you think they'd be still a viable competitor with YouTube? Because YouTube's just got legacy at this point.
It does, but YouTube is also pissing off a lot of creators lately, for the past couple of years, and their more latest thing with the removal of ads, like this show is no longer able to be monetized because my channel does not meet the requirements to make ad money.
Oh yeah. I got an email saying that. I didn't realize I was ever qualified to monetize anyway. But I got the message. And the thing was, I never gave a shit. But I got the message. You're like, you are not qualified. It just made me feel bad for a second. Anyway.
Right? Yeah. Like really?
Oh gee, thanks, Google. You dicks.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
Right.
I didn't want to be, but now you're just telling me I kind of suck anyway.
Yeah.
Fuckers.
And then they have their YouTube Heroes program, which is mostly just a bunch of SJWs who sit around with nothing to do and complain about people's videos. Then there's, the whole Logan Paul thing that's been going on, where it's like, well, how come this motherfucker's still on the platform after the shit he's pulled? And it's like, well, duh, he brings in millions of hits. Do you really think YouTube is going to get rid of him?
I can't remember her name, but the CEO of YouTube.
Wozniak.
That's Steve Wozniak.
Susan Wozniak or Wojcicki, something
Wozniak.
like.
I think it's Steve Wozniak.
Maybe it's Wojcicki. Wojcicki, I think, something like that. Yeah.
But she was on. I listened to this one podcast by Kara Swisher. She just does tech interviews. Anyway, so she was just on there, and they got into that. So she asked about that kid. What's his name?
Logan Paul.
And they made a joke like, how come you didn't kick Logan Paul off yet? And it wasn't really about money, but she made a fair point, which is there is a system of checks and balances that YouTube does have in place in terms of offending content. And Logan Paul made bad choices that were in very poor taste, but he didn't do anything really to warrant getting kicked off. And you can't just make exceptions because you're deeply offended by what one guy did, but he still didn't really he didn't trigger the flags in place to get kicked off. So I think that YouTube's one of those things where they're trying to be very measured in the way in which they enforce their policies, which is smart. And you might not I don't think, I saw the suicide thing. I'm surprised that nobody thought that was a bad idea. It just seems like an obviously bad idea. But then maybe, I don't know him, and I've seen very few of his videos. But anyway, yeah, so they are limiting and doing a lack of monetization thing on people, right? So could Twitch compete then? Would Twitch just be, would Amazon just be like, more lax or something, or just?
Well, they've been getting a bit more lax. Like they went from, it used to be the only way to make money on Twitch, like through Twitch itself, not through donations, was you had to be a partner, and their partner stuff was like, oh, you need 500 concurrent viewers average. You need to stream 3 times a week for X amount of hours. It was like draconian. But now they have their affiliate program where you can still get sub revenue, and people can still get tip you in the bits, which it's kind of like the porn site tokens in a way. And that you only need 3 concurrent viewers on average, so it's a lot easier to get into. So they might be able to get some stuff done, but it's a little hard to tell if they'd actually be able to do it. But then again, what's his face? What is the CEO of Amazon?
Oh man, I wanted to say Elon Musk, which not.
No, it's not Elon Musk.
Drawing a blank on names. For some odd reason, I'm real bad with remembering names.
Yeah, but he's one of those guys, like when he sets his sights on doing something.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, Bezos, that's it. He fucking goes for it. So if he decides that he wants Twitch to become a YouTube competitor, he will go for it.
Yeah,
you know,
no doubt, no doubt.
He's just one of those guys.
But anyway, yeah. So, okay. So all that stuff notwithstanding, the whole Google streaming thing. Yeah, I mean, I sort of see it, right? Because they could expand on they have the Google Play services, right? So in there, they've got the sort of sub of that. They've actually got the app for Google Play Games, which is a weird app if you're on Android. I'm pretty sure they don't have it for iPhone. If you're on Android, they have this, like, it's an app, games, but it takes you really, it's just sort of like, it's like a games curator, right? It's almost like the YouTube for kids. Like, it's not separate from YouTube. It just curates YouTube stuff for kids. And this games app seems to do the same thing. It just sort of curates apps that are just games. So it's weird. And then if a game looks interesting, it'll take you then to the app store to download it. So it would seem to me that there is a sort of wedge that they could use to expand that app for streaming stuff.
Interesting. So I just don't know if we are quite there yet for a true streaming gaming service. The latency is still a bit too high. There's still plenty of people that don't have fast enough internet for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, when you compare the price to performance ratio of internet in the United States, we're still one of the worst in the fucking world.
Right.
Now, granted, you and I have good speed, but we also live right near a major city. If you live out in East Bumblefuck fucking Kansas, what do you got? Satellite? That's going to be any good for gaming.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's the big pitch, is that these streaming game services actually work better because people can pick up and play right away. And if their latency is really crappy, then they just have a lower resolution of the same game. And by the way, I was looking it up. It's OnLive was the company I was thinking of, but there's actually there was a bunch of them. GeForce got in, or Nvidia got in on it. GameFly got in on it. There's PlayGiga. I've heard of them. PlayKey. There's like 5 more. I'm not going to name them all, but but OnLive was one I was thinking of, and I think they went out of business. But
I think so too.
Yeah, they went out of business in 2005. Sold all their patents to Sony. So there wasn't a market for it yet, and I agree with you. I don't think there's a market for it right now either. I think the people that
I think maybe in 10 more years there might be, as speeds get better and as we move away from physical media for games overall. Pardon me.
Yeah. I don't. I certainly wouldn't personally have an interest in it. I'd much. First of all, I don't play a ton of mobile stuff. I just downloaded the the Final Fantasy mini version of 15, whatever it is. But and every time I install a game and then I start to play it, I wind up uninstalling. I have no. Whenever I'm out and about, I don't want to play a game really. Because normally if I leave my house, it's normally just to hang out with my wife or go to work.
Right.
I've become such a homebody. Or I'm out at a club or a bar. Like, I don't go to places to really look at my phone, right?
Right, yeah. And it's the same thing with me. The only thing I have on this is a solitaire game. There you go. You know, something I can play when I'm bored at work or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've tried some AR games. I do have stuff for Daydream. But again, that's just for sitting at home. I put the VR goggles on, and my wife thinks it's creepy, which always irritates me. I'm like, tech isn't creepy. Just because you're not used to it doesn't make it creepy. It's awesome, and the VR is not bad on that thing. Oh, by the way, you now have access to Daydream. Of course,
Yes.
it's a $100
Yes.
headset, so I don't know if you're all that into
No, not right now. Just spent $1,000 on this phone. I'm going to say this: there, Big Mountain Fudge Cake. I love the name, but I don't have your band's music to play, so I can't say I can play your game. He's on Twitch.
Big Mountain Fudge Cake.
Yeah, that's a great name. I do have to admit that's a great name. But
I think it's on Twitch.
yeah,
Get in the chat. Hold on, let me get there. I gotta log in again. I log in every time I come to the site. I gotta log back in.
why don't you have to? Don't you hit remember me?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like all the time.
That is weird. So it's on YouTube. Well, you know what?
Don't remember.
I'll check it out after the show there, Big Mountain Fudge Cake. And then if we like it, maybe we'll be able to play it next show. How's that? So,
There we go.
so yeah, I mean, it's interesting if Google is planning on doing it. And like I said, Phil Harrison is involved, so there's a good chance that something could happen with it. But I just don't think that the market's ready for a full streaming service of games unless they're like mobile games, you know? And look at the Ouya. Look how well that did.
Yeah, it tanked.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I mean, I know I wouldn't be interested in, However, I think that here's how I think it goes. If this thing ever becomes successful or even useful, it goes. Companies like Microsoft, they get these gaming subscription things, games as a service, in
Right.
line first, and Microsoft is positioned to do that. So is Steam, like we talked about last show. Microsoft
Right,
buying
right.
Steam, which is not going to happen. But so that's the first part, right? And then and then if that's popular, then there's more of a reason to think, okay, people are subscribing to it, they are playing the games, because then once people have a sense of ownership, right? I think then it's a little bit easier to be like, I can play my games anywhere I go.
Right.
Right. When you have that agency, it's a different context. Then maybe people are more amenable to it. Because otherwise, like, game, I don't know, what games would I play? Because then there's also the question of, can you play on like MMOs, right? Which I rule
Right,
out. Because
yeah.
You're talking about streaming the graphics and whatever's being put through just in terms of the game itself, and then of course there's all the online interactions. I don't think that's. I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but yeah, that's getting way off track. But I think the games as a service would have to be successful first. Otherwise, it's
Yeah, I agree. All right. Next rumor: Disney may be shopping around to not use EA as the exclusive licensor of Star Wars games.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much truth is there, but I'll tell you personally, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
It would just be awesome because I just as odd as it sounds, I just want to see EA get a black eye. I want to see EA get a black eye because I want the industry, in terms of the business, the draconian part of the business, Activision and, well, I don't even know if I should mention Konami, but EA and Ubisoft, so that basically one of them gets a really big black eye, and they start to recognize that loot boxes, loot crates, not only are a bad idea, but they are severely bad for the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I agree.
Awesome. That'd be awesome.
I agree. People are saying, yeah, but EA has like this 10-year deal. It's like, do you really think Disney would enter into any agreement like that without some sort of clause that says they can pull out for specific reasons?
I read this rumor too, and I thought that I did read that Disney did have some sort of clause.
Oh, I'm sure they do, and it's it's not something that we would know about, but that sort of clause is in there because they're the ones that own the IP.
Right.
That's all there is to it. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, I do want to see what Respawn's Star Wars game is going to be like, and that should be being shown this year. Because I think it's supposed to come out next year. early next year. But I like Respawn. Okay, I'm still upset that EA bought them, but I still like Respawn.
Yeah.
But everything else, they shut down that Amy Hennig like story-driven Star Wars game, and then shut down Visceral Studios. And people are like, "What are you doing?" Star Wars fans want a story-driven game. They don't just want multiplayer.
Right.
In fact, I'd actually go so far as to say more Star Wars fans don't give a shit about the multiplayer as much as getting a good campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, what was that one Star Wars game that you played the hell out of, and I certainly played a lot of on the... It was the N64, right? It was
Oh, Shadows of the Empire?
Shadows of the Empire, where you played as that, like, Han Solo-esque guy.
Yeah, Dash Rendar, I think was his name.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Yeah, I think it was Dash Rendar. That was awesome. That
Yeah.
game was fun. And we would just go back and play levels and just, like...
Mhm.
There's, like, the one level where you could hear the guy doing the Willem scream.
Yeah.
On the icy cliff, I think, or something. And,
Yeah.
we just go back and play that just to hear him scream as he fell down, the stormtrooper. And, you can create those memorable moments. I remember having a real bad time remembering names tonight, but you played... I'm stuck with Kylo Ren. You played Kyle
Katarn.
Yeah, and that was on the PC.
Jedi. It was Dark Forces 2, Jedi Knight, and Jedi Knight 2. That's who you played as.
And those I played the hell out of that. There was a multiplayer component, and I did play a bit, but basically I just love it. Yeah, I love playing the single player. Now I guess maybe it's an age thing. Maybe having us growing up in a time where you spent most of your time in a single player world, you can invest in that world, and now maybe we're moving away from that. But I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt that too, because if you really think about it, we could still go to each other's houses and play games with our friends. That wasn't a big deal. It's just there wasn't the online that there is now.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Like, I know that I still feel like there's plenty of room for single player games.
Yeah.
All the games I'm playing right now that I'm having fun playing are single player. I mean, they might have multiplayer stuff wedged in there somewhere, but like I'm playing Final Fantasy 15.
Yep.
I'm playing Fallout 4 still. I just finished Observer with Rutger Hauer. And I've got like the Alien Isolation and the Outlast 2. Those are all the games that are high on my list to play, and they're not multiplayer, and I don't play the multiplayer component of the WWE game. So
right, yeah. And but even back on like the N64 and then the GameCube, if you remember, was it Red 5? They put out like the Rogue Squadron and the Rogue Leader games. They were just X-Wing style games, arcadey ones, but they were real fun and they were only single player.
Right. Yeah. So I do think there's a strong market for it, and I think that it's really got less to do with these publishers are thinking, well, we're trying to stay current with what people want, and it's more like the online crap allows us to just
make money continuously.
Addictive components.
Right. So.
Well, anyway, I hope so. I mean, there's not much. I mean, it's just a rumor, but it's certainly one that I hope bears some fruit.
Yeah. I do too. I'd like to actually see Disney shop around for other things. Like, obviously, the Lego Star Wars games are a different beast entirely because whoever makes the Lego games has that license. But I'd like to see other, it would be nice to see competition in the Star Wars market.
It would be. Hey, did you ever play any of those Lego games?
You know what? I think I've only played like demos of them. They were fun in the demos, but I never bought any.
They're to me enough so that I could actually play the demo and enjoy it. But I don't think I have much of an enjoyment of them beyond demo time.
Right. I think it's the same thing
just
with me.
Enough for me, like, oh, that was quirky and
neat. Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. And they look like they have some funny jokes put in there, but that's about it.
Yeah. I played the Indiana Jones one.
Yeah.
Of course. It was fucking Indiana Jones.
So moving on to not rumors. Activision. I didn't put this in the notes, so we'll just make this quick. They made more money last year on microtransactions than they did selling games.
I didn't know that, but I believe that.
Yeah, they made over. They made over $4 billion in microtransactions. Now, granted, $2 billion of it was from that King acquisition they made. Like, I think they're the ones that make like Candy Crush and shit like that.
Oh.
Okay, so but still, then you're still talking like $2 billion fucking dollars for Overwatch because Activision is Activision Blizzard and
Right.
all their other games, and that's a
So
ton.
that's a lot of money, right? But
Yeah,
so does that? So is it a universal sort of what do we call it? Like a universal pattern with the gaming psychology, where you have what they call the whales. And for those who don't know, whales are so in games where there's microtransactions. The way I understand it, they have terminologies for it. Is that most people don't spend like any money, and if they spend money,
it's a very little bit.
tiny amount.
Right.
And then there's like, I don't know, a couple tiers. You could say like 3 or 4 tiers, right? And then it's just basically broken up in ranges. And then the most money comes from the smallest number of people,
Yeah,
right?
like
Those are
like
called the whales.
10% or less of the people, something like that.
That's a lot of money, man. Like, I'm trying to imagine, is it some like Sultan's kid over there in the Middle East? You know what I mean? Like all this oil money. He's just like, yeah, Candy Crush all day long.
Yeah,
You
man.
know? What is going on?
I don't know, but
But you think that applies? I mean,
I think it's part of it. I want to say that Ubisoft announced that they also made a lot of money on microtransactions. Not not that much, but it was getting like up there. But I mean,
That's disappointing.
well, it is when you think about it. Like you're a games company, but yet you're making more money off of the aftermarket parts of the games than the actual selling of the games, and you have like the best-selling fucking game series every year with Call of Duty.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, Destiny's not doing too shabby. Though I wonder if Destiny 3 is gonna take a hit for all the missteps Bungie's been making.
It's very possible.
I mean, so okay, I don't want to linger on the loot crate thing because I think we beat that up every episode. But
Pretty much.
so, I do want to talk about that though because it's interesting. Oh, Metal Gear Survive
Mm-hmm.
just actually came out, right?
Is
So
it out, or is it just the beta?
It's out.
Okay.
I didn't. So I was on the beta and I didn't get a chance to play because I was away. And then I saw the beta was available again, and I was like going to bed. So I like, oh, I'll download it overnight and play tomorrow, which is what I did. And I played it, and I had zero interest in it. I don't. You ever? So there's this YouTuber named Yong Yao or Yong
Yeah,
Yao.
yeah, yeah. Yang
But
Yi.
he did a real cool little breakdown of it, which I totally agree with, which was that it has all the mechanics of Metal Gear 4, whatever the most recent one was, which I have
5.
not yet had a chance to play, 5. So it has all the gameplay mechanics of 5, which of course is about stealth and planning, but it's in a world where you're basically like doing horde mode against weird zombie-like things that have like crystals for heads. Just so weird. So,
But they make some great movies. You got to admit that.
They do. Look. Japanese make excellent movies. They make excellent anime. They make excellent horror. They still consistently, for like the last 15 years, have been making some of the best horror you can find. But so apparently there's loot crates in it, and they didn't know that. And it's not really much pay to win stuff. But the Yong Ya guy said, and I agree with him, that it's a discordant fusion of gameplay mechanics and actual game type. Like you can't, and he articulated it better, right? Because like I wasn't sure what about the game I didn't like, but that was it. It's like you've got this methodical pacing, like actually moving your character through the space. And you got these zombies, and I'm like, I can't move. This isn't Gears of War, you know what I mean? But it's a horde mode, but it's like not a very good game. And apparently, but you were mentioning how these game publishers make a ton of money, basically slicing off pieces of their franchises, you know. And, you know, other than this Metal Gear Survive game, not even a proper Metal Gear Solid game, Activision has, or Konami, excuse me, now they're like basically selling off the Metal Gear franchise in pachinko games.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They've turned into a pachinko company almost.
Yeah, and I just think that's weird, and so the reason I wanted to mention that was because you see right there a very direct correlation with the loot box phenomenon and gambling, right? And now you've got literally, it like switches over. Now you've got what is firmly a gambling game, and now they're bringing over elements of their IPs, their video game IPs, right? So you're seeing in cases of companies with like Konami, where the line isn't blurred, it's just straight up merged.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to point that out because you mentioned it, made me think of it.
Yeah. So, but this trend of people making this much money, like you remember we talked about a couple episodes back about how EA was making like 40% of its revenue as microtransactions, and now they're getting close to 50-50, and now EA or Activision Blizzard is now making more money through microtransactions than the actual game sales, and that's just outrageously crazy to me.
That's a bummer, man. And it's any wonder why I find myself moving away from online games, because I'll sit down, and if I have a minute, I'll be like, okay, I got like 15-20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll jump on GTA and goof around or Warframe, ding. But even then, I'm just kind of like, I don't necessarily feel like doing anything online. Because everything has a grind mechanic to it now. If it's online, you're probably going to be grinding, right? You're going to be grinding for loot boxes, or you're going to be grinding for some tiny little residuals to build up to something cool. And and if I'm going to sit down and play a single player game, that's the one downfall to single player games is most of them are story driven, and you have to invest time. There's not really any single player games you can sit in and kill 10 minutes.
Right.
So for the most part,
unless it has like an arcade mode or something like that.
Yeah, right. And that's one of the reasons I re-downloaded the wrestling games, because I can kind of just go in and do a wrestling match and then be done.
Right.
But other than that, it's just sort of it's a shame, because what's happening is I guess they're still making money, but they're driving away gamers like me who are like, there's no online game I want to play. And I don't have time to play a single player game to get into it and then get lost in it, which is fun, but I don't always have the time.
Yeah. We're not like, in our 20s anymore.
No.
We're in our 40s.
Yeah.
You have a wife.
My 30s I had time. Just, once I got married, if I'm not working, I'm hanging out with the wife, which is fine. It's just those were my priorities are. I used to come home from work and have all night to play video games.
Well,
it's a shame because
I technically still do, but I still work a lot. You know what I mean?
Right.
The amount of hours that I can put in a week will sometimes get me to the point where I'll come home and by right now, which is only 9:45, I could be asleep and nobody would know the difference, because that's just how tired I could be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and the same thing with me, right? Like this past week, I've been gaming less because I don't want to. It's more like I've come home, I've done work, played a little bit of games, right after we get home, relax for 45 minutes, and then get right back to working on stuff, personal projects and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, long rambling aside, it's just a shame because these companies are not making any compelling games for me. They're really just more focused on getting people addicted and hooked into this cycle of I need to get the next thing, and I'll fork out some extra cash if I need to get the sword or
right.
The glowing helmet.
Yeah. So I guess that's really all we really have to say about that. We end up talking about loot boxes and stuff too much. It's a shame that we have to, but they're just so in your face in the gaming news lately.
Yeah, you can't escape them.
I know. So our last real topic, after the school shooting last week, apparently we've had a Kentucky governor, GOP, a senator, I want to say, from someplace, I think also GOP.
You've had a few. You've had
some sheriff.
You've had, the governor of Florida.
Okay.
Scott.
Whatever his name is. Yeah, I don't care about his name.
I was just talking about him, too. You've got Donald Trump. You've got Marco Rubio. You've got a bunch of people now. Okay. And it's unfortunate, but it's the inevitable.
It's the Jack Thompson argument.
It is. And, it is, and I agree with you, but there's another layer on this one now. And it's less about knee-jerk reactionary, sort of paranoid people who just don't like video games. Jack Thompson had a thing, like a
Oh, he
boner
had a raging boner, hate boner.
for video games.
Yeah.
This, it definitely feels like to me, and you might disagree, and I don't want to take it too deep into politics, but there definitely is a bit of dog whistling, if I'm using the term correctly. In other words, you know, a lot of the kids who experienced that spoke up and spoke out against how easy it is to get specific types of firearms, not the right to bear arms. It's not a challenge to the Second Amendment. It's just certain types of weapons are too easily available to people that have long history of mental illness and bad behavior. Okay.
That would be because the background checks do not check for mental illness. The mental illness. Bad behavior is supposed to be checked as a criminal background check.
Right. And, you know, that's also not to disparage people who have mental illness, because I'm not saying that, like, if, you know, people are dealing with antisocial disorders, you know,
Or
they're
even
getting help
depression.
for it,
Even depression.
or depression, and they're getting help on it and working on it, doesn't necessarily mean that they're, you know, that you need to look at them sideways and be like, But the point is that these kids came out and they started saying, hey, you know, to the leaders in Florida, you failed us, you know, and what are you doing? And what they did, naturally, was they said, well, how much money are you getting from the NRA? This just happened today with Marco Rubio. And it seems to me the timing is unmistakable. They're like, NRA, no, look over here, video games are horrible. Remember how we were talking about that a few years ago? They're still horrible. And that's what it seems like.
Of course, the ironic part is...
Like, mental health, video games,
guns. Ironic part about the whole video games are harmful is, if you remember who was talking about it before, it was Lieberman, Clinton, Democrats.
Yeah, of course. Well, there's the nanny state thing.
Right.
You know, and then, of course, there was... oh, man, I forgot his name. Lee...
Leland Yee. Oh, that motherfucker.
Ironically...
is in jail for fucking running guns for the Yakuza.
Yeah. It's a gun run, right? So, and that's why I say, so that was where the difference was. There was just this sort of nanny state paranoia about video games, which was, even at that point...
It was Mortal Kombat back then.
It was Mortal Kombat, and then it was Grand Theft Auto, because... you know, there was the abilities one had. Well, you know, initially was you could, you know, pay a hooker, have sex with her, and then kill her and take your money back. For some odd reason, people were really fixated on that. And even though there's no mission that encourages you to do that, you can kill anyone in the game.
Yep.
But then, of course, it was the hot coffee. Fiasco. And,
man, he fucking Thompson went after that like no tomorrow.
Yeah, he went nuts because somebody had
somebody had to fucking hack the game to even find it.
Right, to find the protagonist. What's his name? CJ?
Yeah.
Having simulated sex, but everyone's clothes were on, but it was still sex.
Yeah.
And that sent everyone into a tizzy. And that's why I say it's a little different, because where then you had, you know, Democrats, you know, worrying about the children and all the hand-wringing, this one seems like they're trotting out that old argument, because it went away because Florida smacked down a law, or California smacked down a law saying, no, video games are not proven to cause any kind of, you know, negative behavior in kids. And I think they actually tried to pass that law a couple times, and it never got...
Yeah, Leland Yee was actually behind one of them, I think.
Yeah, he was. And so... I thought he was through behind a couple of them until eventually he went to jail. I thought it was sort of like Crusade, but then the hypocrite got busted actually selling real guns.
And he's a Democrat.
And he's a Democrat. Now, here's the thing, and I don't know if it's for the Yakuza, and but it's just funny.
Or the Triad. It was like the Yakuza or the Triads, one or the other.
I have no idea. He was selling guns for bad people, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, so clearly there's a big market for people who want to buy guns.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have the NRA, right? And you've got the Republicans, you know, who are getting money from them. And now you have, and this one of the kids said to Marco Rubio, like, you know, will you stop taking money from the NRA? And, you know, so it went there. So in this particular case, I feel like now that the Democrats are picking it up, or the Republicans are picking it up, because it allows them to kind of draw attention from something. However, regardless of the motivations for it, it's dangerous. It's dangerous because it's a scapegoat still, and well, I shouldn't say dangerous. It's not like if somebody takes,
it's a dangerous precedent.
Video games.
It's a dangerous precedent to set.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, because I don't want to make it sound like losing your video games is much more scary than say the proliferation of guns in high schools or something. It's just that it also allows for the conversation to shift away from something very serious to something not very serious. And I say in the grand scheme of things, government legislating video games, which the ESRB was already founded and is pretty strict. I mean, they enforce the rules, as a self-governing body.
Except for the loot boxes.
Well, yeah, I mean, always follow
the money. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of back with this, and I don't think it's going to get very far.
I don't think so either. I mean,
it's not, like I said, because I think that I think the smoke and mirrors that they're trying to use video games for is way too obvious.
Well, it's not even just that. It's people can try to pull out, oh, look at this study, but it's like for every study you pull out that proves your point one way, there's another study that proves the point a different way.
Right.
So there's no conclusive evidence.
Right. And so, and I would gather that people who have the kind of mind that are easily influenced by violence in video games also have the same kind of mind by violence in movies.
Yes. The inability to distinguish fantasy from reality.
Right. So I don't think it'll get very far. I think that we're in a time where they're gonna try it. It's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
And it might even backfire.
Yeah. I actually saw something that was really interesting, and it was a joke tweet about like that Nicholas, whatever the fuck his name is, the kid who did the shooting, where the FBI knew about him for like a year, but they didn't do anything.
Oh my, yeah, they knew
but
a lot.
Yeah, but somebody said, you know what? Instead of saying he was going to shoot a school up, should have said he was selling pot. He'd even be in jail already.
Yeah, he would have been.
Right. And it's like, it sounds stupid. It sounds funny, but it's true. Because up until he actually does something, or, anybody, like someone could report me, because I have guns in the house. Great. Someone could report me for saying something that whether I did or not. But until I actually go do something, there's not really much anyone can do legally. Okay? Whereas, what are they going to do? Are they going to come to my house with a warrant looking to see if I have the guns that I legally own? Okay. That's all they can do. Whereas if you say, oh, he's out selling drugs, then they can use the warrant to look for drugs. And if they find drugs in the house, then guess what? I go to jail.
Right.
You see? It's one of those things. It's like just owning a gun itself, even if you make stupid threats, doesn't prove anything until you actually do something. And that's where I think a lot of people don't get why the FBI couldn't do anything. And it unfortunately becomes that. Now, if he had a long history of constantly making threats, which I don't know. I know he made at least that one.
That was the thing. For over a year, his family was saying that he had Facebook posts talking about committing violence against people, about wanting to murder people. It was pretty well known to his family and pretty well known to the cops he'd been arrested, I think, in the course of, I don't know, some period of time, 2 years, a year, like 36 times or something.
Well, yes, that should have
behavior.
That should have set off some red flags.
Right.
That should have. And that's a failure on the FBI.
This is video games, not politics. And eventually, I'll get television religion up and going, and that could be where the politics happen. But, I wonder, though, right? So you say, and you make a good point. Because marijuana isn't completely decriminalized across the country. Although, sorry to get off. Did you hear? There was a chief of police or something here in Philly said, I think it was like the district attorney, said that they're currently dropping all cases of marijuana possession in the city. For everything or under a certain amount? Well, whatever the legal amount, or whatever the misdemeanor amount is. Okay, so not intent to sell. Right, not intent to sell, just misdemeanor
Personal use, basically. Yeah,
They're-
possession.
And they're dropping it because he said that, you know, and I'll get to why I'm talking about this, other than the fact you mentioned marijuana and stuff, because this has nothing to do with video games, unless, of course, you like to smoke up and play video games.
Which,
but
more power to you if you do. We don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, so he said, you know, it frees up resources for the law enforcement agents to go and actually work on real crime, but it's also part of a step where Philadelphia has already started giving out licenses where you can have, you can purchase marijuana at dispensaries for medicinal purposes, but the Kinney, the mayor, said that he wants to legalize it for recreational use.
There's talk about doing that in New Jersey now, too. There's a lot of talk that in the next couple of years it'll be legal in New Jersey, whether Christie likes it or not. That they'll have enough votes in the House and Senate of New Jersey that even if Christie vetoes it, they'll be able to overturn it.
Nice. Yeah. So, anyway, so...
And we both still think that...
Just out of curiosity, right? So, right now, there's no... You don't have to register your weapon, right?
I do, because I have handguns.
Okay, so... A registration... Imagine a registration like a car. You have to register it every year, or once you register it, it's in the books forever?
It's a couple years.
Okay. So then, really, what they could do then, if you have some sort of red flag, right, in terms of behavior, cops are constantly coming to your house for domestic violence or whatever it is, couldn't they just...
If you get arrested and convicted of domestic violence, you cannot own a gun.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So, well, this kid was. So there is the answer, right? Like, that is your... I mean, whatever. I mean, this is all just, 2020 hindsight crap.
Right.
But, if the neighbors call and say this kid's acting up, and maybe the cops can't come and search your house and check for guns, but if they say, do you have any guns? And you're like, yeah. If the neighbors say, oh, I saw him brandishing his gun in his backyard, which is his, I guess maybe his legal right, but he's acting weird. The neighbors could say, hey, man, he's acting kind of weird with his guns. There's a revocation situation there.
Right. Now, yeah, you're right. Now, it's going to depend. If you're just waving your gun around out in your backyard, that's not much the cops can do as long as the gun doesn't go off.
Right, a la Hunter S. Thompson.
Right. If the gun does go off, okay, one of the things that we have to remember, because I do still plan on taking you and Candace shooting, because I know you still want to at least learn and see how everything goes. But one of the things that everyone has to remember is that if a gun is in your hand and it goes off, you are responsible for that bullet until it stops moving.
Right.
So if
aren't there certain laws in residential areas, like you can't really just take your gun and
you can take your gun into your yard, but you can't necessarily start shooting your gun in your yard if you don't have a good enough distance between you.
That's what I'm saying. Like almost like zoning laws, where even if you're shooting it up in the air,
the
bullet goes up, the must come down.
Exactly. Okay, so if I were to go out in my backyard drunk or something like that and start shooting off one of my pistols, and one of those bullets were to go into one of my neighbor's houses and hit somebody, I am liable for that.
Right.
Okay. If
that were to happen, right, in this hypothetical scenario, would they be able to revoke your registration on it?
That's going to depend on the circumstances.
Anyway,
yeah.
I'm just sort of spitballing, like what can be done at the current time. But the thing is, as it relates back to video games, this is just one of those things where I think, am I using that term? I want to say dog whistle.
I think so. I don't know. See, all these terms, gaslighting, dog whistling, it's like I don't care about these terms. You know what I mean? It's a distraction. Pardon me. I am still getting over my bronchitis and everything.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm definitely using it wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and the very first thing though, when I get you and Candace out to the range with Joe and my guns, is we're going to go over gun safety with you guys. Very first thing, before either of you even look at the gun, it's gun safety. We might even have videos to show you.
I mean, I've shot guns in the military, but it's been a long time, and That's exactly what they do too. You don't even touch the gun until you go over all the specifics.
Yep.
And you weren't allowed to shoot the gun until you did the stupid, like you had to hold it out at a certain distance and load it a certain way, and then you had to like pull it into your chest. Like we had to.
Oh yeah, yeah. When you're resting, you gotta put your, but you always keep the muzzle pointing down range.
Right. Yeah. So.
And when when you want to empty it, you got to make sure the magazine comes out. If it's a magazine load, you got to clear it, and then you lock it and you put it so that the chamber or the ejection chamber is facing where anyone can look in and make sure that there's no bullet in there. Right. All that stuff. Don't point it anywhere near anybody. It doesn't matter if it's unloaded, treat it like it's loaded. All that stuff that some people don't understand, because how many people... We have to remember, as many gun deaths as there are in this country, it's something like 90% of them are self-inflicted. And it's through both suicide and accidental. And a lot of the accidents are people who are gun owners doing stupid shit, like trying to clean a loaded weapon. Not clearing your weapon. Like, I can't even imagine how hard must it be for these people to forget to check to see if there's nothing in the fucking chamber before you start taking a gun apart.
Yeah, man. Especially when, like, your life or the life of somebody in your house depends on it.
Exactly.
No joke. It's funny. I told a couple gun-loving guys I used to work with. Well, there's one, and then somebody else in a different place. Maybe it was Joe. Maybe it was you. I don't know. Somebody. But I heard it from a couple people because I said, and I talked to you about it, like I wanted to get a handgun, mainly for my wife, for protection. We live in the city, and I just thought maybe have a gun, get maybe a little gun locker, like a little handgun locker.
Yeah, that's all you need.
And they're like, "You want a gun for protection?" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, I would feel better knowing that she's got a way to annihilate someone. Should that get that dire,
right?
The city where we live, and they're like, "Get a shotgun." I'm like, "Really?" Like, get a shotgun.
I think I told you. I
positively have to make sure that motherfucker ain't getting back up.
And I also told you this. I told you about get a shotgun too. Not just for that part, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be loaded. Okay, because everyone knows that sound. Let's say someone were to break into your house. You're gone for the weekend, like you're with your mom or something, and Candace is alone with just Dobby and Zelda. And somebody breaks in the house, because Dobby's going to try to, like, get up on him and lick him to death, and so Zelda. So they're not any good there.
No. They're useless guard dogs.
Yes. But, if she hears somebody coming up those stairs, all she'd have to do with a shotgun, a pump-action shotgun, is to... And everybody knows what the fuck that sounds like, because it's been in every TV show and movie for fucking years. And they will go running for the hills.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Good point. She'd probably like it too. She'd probably like a shotgun.
Yeah. Okay. Now.
They're the perfect zombie killing machine.
Yeah.
When the zombie apocalypse comes.
But it only works for pump action. Okay. If it's not a pump action, that sound isn't going to go off. So it's not going to.
Obviously.
It's not going to be a deterrent. But I'm not saying that that's the only reason it should be a shotgun. But also a shotgun might be easy. A shotgun,
carefully.
Yes, a shotgun with buckshot or birdshot, but especially buckshot. She doesn't have to be as precise when aiming if it comes down to it.
Right.
Okay? That person is going down if that thing is pointed within like a 30-degree angle of them.
Right.
And that's something. I mean, like I said, I'm not advocating that you go out and just buy a shotgun for this. But you still need the gun safety. You still need the training on how to use it. There's ranges we can go to where they'll teach you how to fire shotguns if you want. The difference between slugs and shot, the different buckshot and birdshot. You'd probably. I don't know if you've ever been to a range outside of the military, but
No,
a lot of the people that work at those ranges are extremely helpful, especially towards people who don't own guns and they want to know if they could even fire one if they had to.
Right. Yeah, there's it's just for handguns. There's one right down the street from it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's we've passed it a million times. I didn't know what it was until a few years ago. Somebody told me. It's like it's on like, I don't know. It's like 5 blocks from me, but it's on Front Street, and it's just a big. I mean, there's tons of big nondescript buildings, right? Like I said, it's the city. But yeah, this particular one is like it's just a shooting range for handguns only, I think.
Okay. Do they let you rent handguns there to try out?
I don't know anything about it. Somebody told me. They said, they told me this the intersection. I'm like, oh, I live right up the street from there. I used to live right up the street from there. It's like Front Street and Dickinson or something.
Well, that's something to maybe look into, because if they'll let you rent guns, that's also would give you an idea of what guns you both would feel comfortable with. Saying like, okay, this is a nice size, it's a good weight, it's not going to recoil too much into your face or her face. For that sort of purpose.
Right.
And then you could decide after, shooting a couple times, getting used to it, knowing that, it's going to be loud. Well, this. You've shot guns from the military. But, it's going to be loud. There's going to be a flash. They're not, they're scary to shoot the first time. And I don't know if Candace ever has shot. I mean, she lived up on a farm. She might have.
Who, Candace?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I don't think so. I feel like she told me no, but it's possible her dad may have let her shoot some guns, but I don't know.
Right.
Probably not. I'm assuming not, because I remember when I first talked about it, I said, hey, because we're not. I mean, I'm not like a gun lover. I don't really care. I don't have I don't.
No, but you're looking at it as a potential to protect your home and family just in case.
Literally, and I never even thought about owning a gun until we bought the house. And then I was laying in bed one night, and it's kind of a big house, and I was laying there, and it took me actually like a month to get used to sleeping in the house, because it's it's high up. I mean, it's got 3 floors, and I just thought, man, my first thought was when I was sleeping, I was like, man, if somebody broke in, I just felt like the front door was far away, and it just felt weird. Like I had to get used to like the space, and that was something that really worried me the first like month living here. Was like, if somebody got in, they're so far away, and every little sound I heard was freaking me out, know. And that's when I had the conversation. I said, hey, listen, what do you think? Would you want to get a gun for protection, or you don't want a gun in the house? And she's like, yeah, I just have to learn how to fire one. I was like, well, yeah, of course, but I don't know. So, and ever since then, it's been something on our, radar. Like, probably one day we'd like to get one.
Yeah, maybe one day we should all head down to that range and see if they let you rent guns, and then we can decide on bringing my dad's 45 that I have, Joe's 40, which I will tell you right now, I haven't shot that thing yet. Joe has. I personally think that 40 cal would be perfect for Candace.
Oh yeah.
Joe says it has barely any recoil. It'll be powerful enough at close enough range to stop someone, because she can double tap it real quick if she needs to. It's accurate and it's light. Okay, whereas my dad's 45, especially with the extended magazine that he had, Jesus Christ, he had like a fucking 15-round magazine in that thing. After we found his body, and we didn't tell the cops that there were guns in his apartment. We open up the drawer next to his fucking bed. He's got 2 15-round magazines, one of them in the gun, and then 2 more 10 rounds already loaded. My dad was always like that, but my dad also had stuff from when he was working for the Department of Defense, so he always was a little paranoid. Because he had put people in jail. So
for what?
All undercover stuff that I never knew about.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that your dad did stuff like that. My memories of Sam's dad are basically just being the nice, friendly guy who would have me and Sam come work the concession stand, because what organization?
Lions Club. Lions Club.
Lions Club. That's right. And so I think one summer Sam and I would work that thing a few times. You worked that all the time, right?
Joe
Over the
did more
years?
than, yeah, I did more, but Joe did the most.
Yeah, and then we would go and hang out. And,
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I have my dad's M4 rifle. That thing's a beast. I have my Uncle Charlie's 45 from the Korean War. And then Joe has his 40 cal. And like I said, definitely I want Candace to try that, because I think if you guys are really looking for something that would be good for home protection, but that wouldn't be too overwhelming for Candace with the recoil, because even that 45 has got a fucking recoil on it. I think that 40 cal would actually be really good. You can talk to Joe about it. He says it's like a hair trigger, but it's just like pff, 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 and your hand barely moves.
yeah,
Which
Yeah,
is
we'll check that out.
yeah.
Yes, this has been your little interlude. This is BNS Gunning.
Yeah. Gunning for beginners and for people who've been around guns their entire lives. I still remember getting my shoulder fucked up, though.
From a shotgun?
No. Shotguns are easy. M16s are not when you're 13 years old.
Oh. Yeah, I'd imagine.
We're at a shooting range. My dad, a couple of his friends, and my brothers. And my dad had an M16 in the house at the time because he had to keep it for the Army. And he was like, okay, if you want to shoot it, you can, but he's trying to tell me how to brace myself. And of course, me being 13 years old, what do? I fucking know everything. Oh, I'm good. I got this. No, I didn't have that thing braced right. You've shot an M16 or an M4 in the Army or the Navy.
No, only handguns.
Oh, only
I was
handguns.
in the Navy. Yeah, we weren't. I wasn't infantry, so I didn't have to shoot the war machines. Just
Okay.
handguns.
Well, so he puts it on single fire. I don't have this thing braced up against my shoulder correctly. Pull the trigger, that thing just goes wham right into my shoulder. And I get this giant bruise for like 2 weeks from that.
Damn, that'll learn you.
Oh, yeah. And he was like, want to shoot again? I'm like, nope, I think I'm good. But 13 years old, 12, 13 years old, you think you know everything. Oh, I got this. I've seen the movies. But that was my dad's way. He tried to tell me, and I didn't listen.
Right. Maybe he knew. Maybe he knew that you were just going to learn the hard way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think he did. And I did learn the hard way. Now I know. You brace your shoulder. You jam that thing into your fucking shoulder. Because trust me, the AR-15s that are out there now, like 6-year-olds can shoot them if they're braced properly.
All right. So, is there any other gaming stuff you want to hit up on, Sam?
I don't think so. It's been, we're in that weird January, February time when there's not a whole lot of gaming. I mean, Kingdom Come Deliverance got released. It sold 1 million copies. I don't know if you know too much about that game. It's kind of like a historical RPG set in like a small area of Bohemia, which is kind of like northwestern Czechoslovakia or the Czech Republic.
Nope.
Yeah, it's supposed to be interesting but buggy as hell, but people are liking it. So, good on them, I guess.
Yeah.
They're a small studio and selling 1 million copies in 2 weeks, pretty good. Yeah, I can't really think of anything major. Have you heard anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I'll throw one tiny little thing out, and then I'm gonna have to hop off. But so I finally beat Observer, the sort of independently developed game. By, I forget who developed it. Rutger Hauer's in it. It's a cyberpunk game. It's very weird. It's a combination of cyberpunk and Cthulhu, because it's got this sort of borderline you're going crazy element. Rutger Hauer plays a certain kind of cop. It's very European feeling, and
Rutger Hauer doing something European feeling? Never.
Yeah, right. And this time he plays the cyber cop as opposed to playing the robot villain, whatever.
Right.
And I'm being very reductive, but it was a really good game. I think that I think the things that they did well in that game, they got the atmosphere pretty spot on. The gameplay I enjoyed. It ran a little long, and it was more puzzle solving. It's not an action oriented game, so you're not going to be shooting at things. Mainly, much like Outlast, when you encounter something, if you kill you, you're supposed to run the fuck away, which is cool. I dig that. It's not as scary as Outlast.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of neat interactions, and it feels like it's like a love letter to like early 90s science fiction. It's really good. But some of the flaws also make it very frustrating, and towards the end I just felt like I knew that I was close to beating the game, so I just sort of suffered through it. I hate fetch quests. I hate running back and forth. Like, go over here, find the thing, go get the thing.
MMOs are fucking horrible for that, so trust me, I know.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of that, and there was a couple of that in there, and I probably, at least twice that I can recall, I had to go on YouTube and be like, where the fuck is this thing? Where the fuck is it? So it's certainly a game with flaws, but it's a game that genuinely tries, and I was thinking about this game when we're talking about single-player games, right? I mentioned it. It's like, I don't know how much it is. I thought it was like $30. If what I'm saying is, if you see it on sale, it's worth like a $15 pickup.
Okay.
There's certainly more than $15 worth of entertainment in there, but the frustration, you know what I mean? Like, you won't feel bad being like, oh man, if you don't like the game, or if it pisses you off too much, $15 won't be that much of a hit. It could definitely, if it was a little shorter, then it would be better. Like,
okay,
made some of the mazes like more obvious, right? Because then it could just be like, oh, you're just exploring, and that'd be cool. But you're like, I got lost. I'm like, come the fuck on, man. But it's kind of, there's some story in there. It's cheesy. Like I said, they're not an American developer, so there's certain sort of things they do that's culturally, I think, not typical for an American. Like, oh, all right. But it was good. It was a good game, Observer. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. My mic is actually getting a little loud because I'm much closer to it. Sorry about that, people. So anyway, hopefully I won't be in the hospital this week, so we shouldn't have to worry about missing out on more time.
Yeah.
God, I hate being in the hospital. I really do. It's so boring. And, when you're coughing up blood, it's not fun either.
Yeah, that's probably the shittier part.
Yeah. That and then not being able to take a shower for 2 days. Ugh, I felt so skeevy. I got out and I was like, I must get out and take a shower. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to get back to this next week, and hopefully there'll be a little bit of news that, will at least be somewhat interesting. We're just in that part, and worst comes to worst, maybe, if we don't find anything, maybe we'll talk about like our thoughts about the future of console gaming.
Yeah, we can, probably we should just start coming up with a general list of gaming related topics that aren't necessarily current news.
Right, yeah. Because there's not always going to be news for us to talk about.
No. Yeah. No, but there's always stuff happening in gaming. It's just not necessarily always like, headline newsworthy.
Right. Yeah, that's how it goes. So anyway, guys, thank you for joining us. We're very happy to have had, more people than usual watching tonight, which I was happy with, between the 4 sites that we're on right now. And I'm Sam.
I'm not Bill.
And we will catch you guys on the next show. Thanks a lot.
Good night, pigs.